We'll start our study with the prayers. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanoramarthanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. The 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is a very beautiful chapter, and the beauty of this chapter is that in 20 short verses, it gives us a clear picture of our real nature. All of us, when we come to study the Bhagavad Gita, want to learn something. And Bhagavad Gita surprises all of us by its revelation of the truth. Anybody who understands the Gita is struck by the wonder of its revelation. This chapter is one of the most beautiful chapters because, like I said, it starts with the place where we are today. The first verse of this chapter talks about samsara. We are all in samsara, means we are identified with this body and mind as the self. We are not aware that we are something different than this body and the mind, which is called as Atman. And this chapter goes step by step in revealing this truth of Atman. Ashwattha tree is compared to the sorrows which we face in life. Like the Ashwattha tree has an invisible root, the root, if we come to know, then we understand the whole tree. Similarly, for us, if we know that we are, the root of our existence is Atma, then we understand the truth about all our life's experiences. And how to know this truth? The Bhagavad Gita tells us the best weapon to use is the Vairagya. We use the acts of Vairagya. Vairagya means dispassion. Through dispassion in life, we will be able to understand the truth. The truth was explained in the third verse. Na rupamasye tatthopalabhyate nanto na chardin na cha sampratishta ashwatthaменam suvirudha moolam asanga shastrena dhridena chitva. The third verse talks about the truth which is invisible. Na rupamasye. That means there is no rupa for that truth. But still I want to know what it is. The only tool which we have is we have to use our own mind. The mind is the tool we all have. And then using this mind, withdrawing this mind from the world, controlling the sense organs, we will be straight on the lap of Ishvara. The values which we need to develop to get the purity of mind, Bhagavad Gita stresses in almost every single chapter the single most quality which we need to have to understand this truth is purity of mind. Every single chapter of Bhagavad Gita tells us purify your mind through karma yoga, purify your mind through your own actions. And then come to study the Gita, you will understand the truth revealed very clearly as your truth, own truth. It is not something which is kept in the books. It is not an academic exercise. Knowing this truth which is revealed, we have to live the truth. Bhagavad Gita stresses a lot on living the truth, living what has been revealed, which is called as Jivanmukti. Whatever we understand from the Gita as our real nature, live that. Drop living as the body, drop living as the mind. Learn to live as Atman. So the fifth verse, Nirmana moha jitasanga dosha adhyatmanitya vinivarta kamaha dvandvai vimukta sukhadukha sangaihi kachanti muda padamabhiyam tat. It gives the step by step the qualifications which we read. The main qualification is nirmamaha and nirmohaha. The mindness in the world and delusion caused by this identification with the body as me. These are the two main qualifications we need to develop. Drop them, drop the delusions, drop the mindness, and then let the mind abide in its own nature, which is called as Atman. From the sixth verse onwards, na tad bhasayate suryaha, na shashanko, na pavakaha, na yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramama. From the sixth verse onwards till the 15th verse is the gist, the essence of this whole chapter. Very, very important section. After we have controlled our mind and the sense organs, we want to know what is this Atma. In order to understand what this Atma is, many of us, for example, want to know, what do I do in meditation after I have controlled my thoughts? This is the answer from 6th verse to the 15th verse. In the seat of meditation, take one verse and meditate. Each of these verses are meditative verses. And the moment you start meditating on them, meditating means what? Dwelling on the mantra and its meaning. For example, Nathat Bhasayate Suryaha. That means in that Atman, there is no other light except its own light. Atman by itself is self-evident. That is the only thing in this entire cosmos which is self-evident. Atman is not something very far away from us. It's me, myself. My own real core nature is this Atman. This is the pure consciousness. It is the pure awareness. This pure awareness is evident to itself, and in the waking state, it illumines the entire world. When it illumines the world, it is called as Vyavaharika Satyam. I'm giving you 4 terms in this. I will give you 4 technical terms. Try to keep them in the mind. Whenever you're analyzing your true nature, keep these four terms in your mind. What are the four terms? Number one, Vyavaharika Satyam. This is in English, Sanskrit. In English, it is called as transactional reality. These are the four keys. You must know what they mean if you want to open up the truth, which is revealed from the 6th verse to the 15th verse. The four keys. Number one, Vyavaharika Satyam means transactional reality. Number two, Paramarthika Satyam means absolute reality. Number three, Adhishtanam means substratum. Number four, Adhyasa means superimposition. When I try to understand this chapter, I have found these four terms are extremely useful to open up every verse and understand what Lord Krishna is trying to explain to us about our real nature. So when it says that there is no light in that Atman, here we should understand it is absolute truth, Paramarthika Satya. It is a higher order of reality. So Bhagavad Gita talks about two orders of reality. One is a transactional world. The second is a higher reality, which is called as Atman. So when it says there is no other light, we are talking about the absolute reality, my own nature, which I am in my real essence. In that, there is no other light except the light of Atma. There is no other light which we see, whereas what happens in the transactional world, we see the light of the sun, we see the light of the moon, which can illumine the objects and beings. But the light, which is this spiritual light, is of a higher order. And how do I understand the two orders of reality? By taking the example of dream. In dream, it's called as lower order of reality. I experience the dream world. When I wake up to the waker nature, that is called as relatively higher order. Similarly, I have to wake up to this. From the waker status, I have to go to the Turiyam status, or the God status, the divine status. Exactly like from dream to waking, waking to this pure state of being. If I know that I have this higher nature, then it is easy for me to drop this world and say, I am Atma. This is taught to me in the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, while living here itself, while enjoying the world of objects and beings, I can easily say I have a higher nature, which has got no world in it. It is the substratum. It is the adhishtanam. Like the waker is the substratum for the dream world, Atma is the substratum for the waking world. With reference to the waking world, I say the waking world is a superimposition on Atman. I have used four terms now. Superimposition means adhyasa. So 4 terms I have used: Vyavaharika Satyam, Paramarthika Satyam, Adhishtanam, and Adhyasa. Adhishtanam goes with the Paramarthika Satyam. Adhyasa goes with the Vyavaharika Satyam. If you keep the dream example and the waking example, all these 4 terms will become very easy. And once these 4 terms become easy, the truth is revealed to you. I am that consciousness principle in which there is nothing else except me alone. That is the substratum from where this entire creation is coming, and the entire creation is existing, and the entire creation is resolving. Whole creation. It is the light of awareness, the light of consciousness. So that was explained in the 6th mantra. We started the 7th mantra last week. I will now go on to the 7th mantra. In this mantra, Mamaivamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha Manashashtandriyani Prakritisthani Karshati. Here the Lord, as that pure awareness, consciousness, is talking to us and telling us that that consciousness itself is appearing as this jiva. That pure consciousness, normally we in Upanishads and in Vedanta, we use the term reflected consciousness. That's what we normally use, especially in Vedanta. When we study the Upanishads, we use this very often. And this is the mantra which tells us why we use reflected consciousness, original consciousness. We use these 2 terms. Because it is the same, the Lord, which is in the Paramarthika Satyam, appears in this Vyavaharika Satyam in the waking state. How do I understand the Paramarthika Satyam? Very easy. Whenever I resolve the waking state, the dream state, and the sleep state, whatever I am is called as Paramarthika Satyam. You can call it blankness, you can call it emptiness, you can call it nothingness, you can call it knowingness. These are all different schools of thought which describe what is that. So that is what is called as the real state. And here Lord is saying that being the real state, this waking state is nothing else but a part of that pure state, pure being. So the Lord is there in each one of us. Like in every bucket of water, you can get a reflection of the sun. Similarly, the sun, which is the Lord, which is the consciousness awareness principle, gets reflected in all the minds of the jivas. And then it becomes a temporary indweller of the body. That is the first thing which happens. So that is what is being explained here. Mamaivamsho jiva loke. That means jiva, I the jiva, am nothing else but this Lord. I don't know this. And that is what is getting revealed. Today, in this body, I see the body and I experience the mind. I experience this, I experience the sense organs and the world. I do not know, this is my ignorance. I do not know that I have another higher nature, which is called as God consciousness or pure awareness. The moment I come to know that I am a part of that, then what happens is I get freedom from this identification with the body or the mind. This is what is called as Jnana Yoga. This is the knowledge about the self. The knowledge about the self liberates me from my identification with the mind. Manashashtandriyani prakritistani karshati. I can drop identification with the mind and the senses, and here and now I can remain as Atma. Because it is there all the time. In all my waking state, I can abide in this Atman. In the dream state and in the sleep state, I can't do anything except understand what those two states are. I have no control over those two states. It just comes and it goes. The dream comes, dream goes. The sleep state comes, the sleep state goes. But the waking state, where I think I am a living being, this is where we need to understand who we are. We have done this particular slide last week. And then here I had quoted Taittiriya Upanishad, which talks about the real nature of the Jiva as Brahman. Brahman and Atman is the same essence. With reference to the body, we say Atman. With reference to the body of the whole cosmos, we say the indweller is Brahman. The indweller in the body, individual body, is Atma. The indweller in the whole cosmos is Brahman. And whoever knows this Brahman clearly, and whoever knows this Atman clearly, by dropping the upadhi, by dropping the medium of transactions, will abide in their own nature. Because knowledge itself is abidance when it comes to the knowledge of Atma or Brahman. And where is this? It is in the cave of our heart. Heart here means the intellect, the buddhi. So this consciousness principle exists in the buddhi, in the mind of all the jivas. And it is through the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, we come to know about this nature of Atma. A self-evident entity, a light of consciousness, awareness, pure happiness, which can exist independently. That is the truth of the entire world. That truth is hidden in my own intellect. I can discover that by dropping my identification with this body and mind. Very easy. You just have to tell yourself, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am the Atma. That's all. Deliberately, you have to say to yourself, and you will realize this pure being. Just like the wave, this is where we stopped last week. Just like a wave discovers that its nature is water, the jiva in this body discovers its nature as Satchit Ananda Brahman. This body is only a part of this whole cosmos. Body is made up of 5 elements, the cosmos is made up of 5 elements. Inside the body, there is a consciousness, awareness principle. Outside the body, in the whole cosmos, there is a awareness, consciousness principle. When you remove the walls of a room, the space inside the room and the space outside become one. They merge. Similarly, the consciousness, awareness in this body is one with the consciousness in the entire cosmos. The moment I learn to drop, the I, the indweller, learns to drop, the identification with the thoughts, identification with the gross body, automatically that jiva finds himself in the lap of Ishvara. Because Ishvara is not in a temple. Ishvara is all-pervading principle. Like you have air, space, the 5 elements are all over the cosmos. Everywhere there is these 5 elements. Similarly, the light of consciousness, the light of awareness pervades the whole universe. It pervades my body, it pervades my mind. I, the limited jiva, who was identifying with the body and mind as the self, realizes the infinite truth, which is not touched by time and which is all pervading. These are very deep verses. It can be taught in these type of situations in class, in study circles like this. But the real essence, the beauty, the fragrance of these verses, you will enjoy when you meditate on these. Because the mind learns to walk the path taught in the Bhagavad Gita to reach that destination, which you can never discover without the study of the Bhagavad Gita. So the truth is, there is one consciousness, which is the higher reality, which is what I have to discover. And the only method available is Vairagyam, dispassion to the body, dispassion to the mind, internal dispassion. Internal means cognitively try to withdraw your attention. And then what you discover is, I, the jiva, there is nothing else in this world, is this Satchit Ananda principle. This Turiyam principle, this Satchidananda, Brahman, all these are just terms, but then they all mean the same consciousness, awareness. So you should note that there is something called as the pure being. Many people who have understood the Gita so far have come back and spoken to me on this particular point, and they have said, I have discovered this particular truth which the Gita is revealing. It is there. I didn't know, but it is there. I know it is there now. That's all. And that is my real nature. And what is the benefit I get out of it? The benefit is I have learned to live in this world with a better understanding about myself. I can face any challenge which comes to me. Earlier, I used to identify with the events and situations. I used to get confused. I used to get deluded. I used to get worked up. I used to become angry. I used to become anxious, jealous, and so on. But now I am very calm because the depth of my essence, the intrinsic depth I have understood, I am now living in that depth. And from that depth of the human mind, when one starts living in this world, it's a pure joy. Narayana Suktam says this beautiful verse. Whatever all this universe is seen, pervaded from inside and outside, that is the eternal Narayana. It is the same essence which was described in the previous verse and this verse. What is that substratum? What is that adhishthanam for this whole universe, from where this waking state is coming, dream state is there, sleep state comes, again it resolves. What is that substratum? Very beautiful mantra. We are all like the fish, remaining in the consciousness, remaining in the awareness. Like the fish is living in water, but it's searching for water, searching for the ocean, the big infinite ocean. It doesn't know that it's already inside that ocean. So what has the fish to do? It has to only get the knowledge. I am in that ocean, which I'm searching. So the individual also is like the same fish. It is trying to understand, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And it is going behind the world of objects. I want peace. I want happiness. I want joy, eternal joy. Where do I go to search for this? In the world. I go to a movie thinking that will give me permanent joy. The movie ends in 1 hour, 1.5 hours. I'm back into samsara. Similarly, I go to some picnic spot, again and again, I move out into the world. I find that I am in the wrong direction. Bhagavad Gita teaches us, look inside you, you will discover the same truth without any expenditure, without any energy being wasted. It is this upadhi called as the body and mind. Upadhi means medium or transaction only. This body is given to us by Ishvara to live a life for a certain period of time. And then Ishvara takes it back. Again, we come back and take another body. As a jiva, I never die. As a body, physical body, yes, the physical body is born, it dies, again it borns. So many bodies are being born and they die also. But the jiva never dies, Atma never dies. These two principles will be explained very beautifully in this chapter in the later verses 16, 17, 18. So in deep sleep, there is no upadhi. Upadhi means medium of transaction. So I am Turiyam. Turiyam means it is a name given to me by the Upanishads, Mandukya Upanishad, for my own nature, then I am there, but I am not identified with this body. I am not identified with the mind. It is only through the body and the mind I realize the entire world. In the sleep state, there is no world. This is called as Drishti Srishti Vada. This is a very high principle for senior students. Drishti means when I see the world, there is Srishti, there is creation. When I don't see the world through the awareness principle, there is no creation. Drishti Srishti Vada, explained in very detailed manner. It is explained in Vichara Sagara. 200-300 pages are written on this particular topic. And that is how one gets liberation in life. By knowing the fact that I am that consciousness. Without that I awareness consciousness principle, there is no Srishti, there is no creation. Only with reference to that consciousness, Atman principle, we can say there is no creation. But if I'm identified with my body, then it is called as Srishti Drishtivada. I'm giving you 2-3 just names for curiosity purposes, so that you get the urge to learn the higher texts. So this is where we are today. We take the Srishti creation as real, and then we are trying to find God in it. You will never succeed, because you have to move away from this creation to discover God. That is why you have to come to the other methodology, which is called as another prakriya, another method. DSV is Drishti Srishti Vada. SDV, Srishti Drishti Vada. These are two methodologies which are taught in higher texts. After you do the Upanishads, there is a text called as Vichara Sagara. In that text, just before liberation, you are told, rise to the level of Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi can be understood when you are that Tat, yourself, that consciousness aware. Awareness is Tat. That Tat is Tvam. Anyway, those are just for curiosity purposes, for you to think, because there are different levels in which one can understand these mantras. Very different levels. When you do the Bhashyam, when you read the Shankara Bhashyam of these verses, you will go into a higher level of understanding the same mantra. But first you should understand the simple meaning, like how we are learning now. So we need to remove the ignorance of taking the three states as the self, as our real self. I am a waker, I am a dreamer, I am a sleeper. This is our current identification. What the Bhagavad Gita says is, drop this. Just to say, I am the Atma, and lead your life. See the difference it makes to your life. You will find a lot of peace, a lot of happiness when you say, I am Atma, and lead the life, rather than saying, I am this body, I am this waker, I am the dreamer, I am the sleeper, I went to sleep, I woke up, I am in this body and I am suffering. All this is due to the wrong understanding of this world. Shankaracharya is very clear when he writes the commentary and he says, if you remove this adhyasa, the superimposition, through knowledge of this Bhagavad Gita or Upanishads, you will be a free person. See, by now you would have got a little bit of a glimpse of that freedom. Who am I in my sleep state without identification with the body and mind? Who am I? Let your mind run through that. It gives you a glimpse. Oh, there is something. There is some pure being. There is an existence principle, a consciousness principle, a pure awareness principle. That is what is my real nature. Who am I now listening to the class? It is the same awareness superimposed in this body. When it is superimposed, it can listen. It has got ears, it has got a mind, it can listen. But without the body, without the mind, can I exist? Yes, that is what Bhagavad Gita is telling us. You can exist without the body and mind, exactly like you are every day experiencing this in your sleep condition. You are not the sleeper, you are the substratum in which the sleep state is coming and going. The dreamer forgets his waker status. The waker forgets his Atma Turiyam status, which is our real hope, revealed by the Upanishads, revealed by the Bhagavad Gita. So there is ignorance which is involved, and it is ignorance which causes the projection of the dream world. It is the ignorance about my real nature, intrinsic nature, which is the cause of the projection of this waking world. Again, in the higher text, this ignorance is deeply analyzed. The same text called as Vichara Sagara, ignorance is analyzed. That ignorance, which is of the Atma, is given a name, Mula Avidya. I don't know my root. That ignorance is called as Mula Avidya. I don't know the root of my essence is this awareness. And what is this avidya, simple avidya? That is, I don't know the waker. Because I don't know I am the waker, I get attached to their dream as my nature. I become the dreamer. In the case of the dreamer, he has to wake up and then become the waker. Similarly, in the case of the waker, to become Atma, to become Turiya Atma, he has to drop his ignorance. And that ignorance goes away by the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Through these verses, Natat Suryate, the mantras we chant from Kathopanishad, this the sixth mantra, these are all mantras which tells me, which throws light on the real nature. But what is the life of joy and sorrow which I'm living today? All of us have got joy and sorrow in the world. We all experience every day, some joy is there, some sorrow is there. Again and again, joy comes next day. What is this life? This life is a life of karma. It's a life of actions and reactions. Where this is called as Vyavaharika Satya. In this Vyavaharika transactional reality, the law of karma explains our life. But in the upper plane, in the absolute plane, in the Paramarthika Satyam, this law of karma is not at all there. That is the absolute reality. That is my intrinsic nature. I am that, whether I like it or not, I am that. That is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. Arjuna, don't think that you are this body. You are not the killer. You are not the being killed. In the second chapter itself, Lord Krishna had taught this to Arjuna. Drop the identification, learn that you are the Atma. Everybody whom you are trying to wrongly identify, all of us are only Atma in our real essence. The lower self is called as the Jiva, the ego I. The moment you drop your mind identification, you yourself becomes Atma, and that is called as Turiyam or higher self. So in deep sleep state, every day we go back to our own real nature. What happens in the deep sleep is that the body and mind becomes unmanifest. The whole Prakriti, nature of 5 elements, has one more state, which is called as unmanifest state or the causal state. It is there in the whole creation, which we studied in the 13th chapter, Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti has got manifest and unmanifest nature. Purusha is always the Vibarta Upadana Karanam. It is changeless. So in deep sleep, what happens is our karmas are there, but in dormant condition. That means they're not going, they are in the restful condition. And what happens in waking and dream? The karmas are fructified, and then we start acting. When action takes place, what happens? We get joy or sorrow, which is called as punyam and papam. In the unmanifest state, there is no punya papam, it's pure rest. But beyond this 3 states of waking, dream, and sleep is my real nature, which is called as the Paramarthika Satyam, the absolute state. That is what Lord Krishna is revealing in these 8 mantras. The subtle faculties of Jnana Indriyam and Karma Indriyam, they go into unmanifest form when the mind is sleeping. All of us, when we go to sleep, why do we wake up the next day? Whatever time you may wake up, somebody may wake up at 4 in the morning, somebody may wake up at 8 in the morning. But why do we wake up? Because of karma. Again, the next day, the body has to do certain actions in this world. Then it is living. Again, the body dies, again takes another body. Again, the next verse will tell us how this happens. So realizing the self as the one with the supreme reality is the final message. I am one with Ishvara. In the Mandukya Upanishad, this truth comes out. In the 6th mantra of Mandukya Upanishad, this truth is revealed. I am one with Ishvara. I am one with the creator of this whole universe in my deep sleep state. The body rests in another causal form, which is called as the causal Prakriti. It is called as the causal body, Karana Sharira. But I am there, changelessly I exist. That is why you and I, we both feel that there is something in me which has not changed at all. It is this I sense of Atma, of pure being, which has not changed, which you can realize it while living. In the waking state, the moment you drop your identification with the body and mind, you are that pure being, that pure presence. Each one of us can feel it, can realize it. That is the Atman. This Atman is not somewhere which I will realize after, after some time, but because it exists all the time. It is eternal. It is timeless. So once the ignorance about this Atman is gone, then that Atman reveals itself because it is self-evident. This ignorance exists in sleep in the potential form. It's like the seed. In the seed, you have the whole tree. Similarly, in the seed of causal form, in the sleep state, I am in whatever state, that state is called as the causal state. And that has got everything, like the DNA. It is the DNA form, the sleep state. The waking state is the full-blown form, the manifested form. And beyond the sleep state is this undifferentiated consciousness, in which the whole drama is coming and going. It may sound very abstract, but when you start thinking about it, dwelling on this nature, it becomes very easy. Oh, this is what, it's such a simple thing. It's telling me who I am, and I am this so-and-so. That's all. I was wrongly thinking that the body is me or mind is me, and then the whole world is also thinking like me only. Because the whole world is thinking, that doesn't make it the truth. The truth is truth. The truth revealed by the Upanishads, by the Bhagavad Gita, is the ultimate truth. And how to realize that is being taught verse by verse. Very deeply it's been taught to Arjuna. So the 8th verse now, let's try to understand. This is a very popular verse. Many questions come to me when I'm taking the Bhagavad Gita. This is probably the 5th or 6th time I'm taking the Bhagavad Gita, all the 18 chapters. And many of people who come to study the Gita, they always ask this question, what happens to me during death? And what happens during death is explained in very beautifully in Upanishad, in Vairagya Upanishad, in Chandogya Upanishad. There are different depths at which they go. A sample of that is given here. What has been described in the Upanishads in detail, a sample, just a sample of that is given here. What happens to all of us, or when the body dies, what happens? Shariram yadam apnoti yachapyakamat ishvaraha grihit vaitani sanyati vayur gandhani bhashaya. It's a very deep verse, deep in meaning. It tells us what happens when a person is born, what happens when a person dies. Here, person means what? That ego. We are not talking about the Purusha. Purusha means the Atman. We are not talking of the Atman because that never dies. The Jiva who identifies with that body as the self is called as is currently the Ajnani indweller, the ignorant jiva. The same jiva, when he comes to realize, understands the Bhagavad Gita, the same ignorant jiva becomes a wise jiva, knowledgeable jiva. When the knowledgeable jiva, through the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, knows his own nature, then he is not identified with the body as the self. He is identified with the Atma as the self. Here what the Lord is saying is that in this body, the Lord comes as a reflection. Whenever the body is born, the mind, along with the sense indriyas, it enters the body. The physical body made up of 5 elements by the parents. The jiva enters this body. The jiva here means the mind together with the karana shariram, together, that means the subtle body consisting of 17 organs, subtle body, the indriyas, the subtle nature. So those who have done the Tattvabodha, the subtle body together the karana shariram plus the reflected consciousness enters the gross body. That is called as birth. What is death? Death is nothing else but the same set of instruments are taken out from the body and the physical body is left in the world. In this world of 5 elements, the physical body is left. That is the beauty which is explained in this verse. And Lord Krishna says, gives a very beautiful example. He says, you think it is very difficult? He says, no, it's very simple for the Lord. The one creator who has created this universe, for him, it's a very simple thing. How? He gives an example here. He says, there are flowers in the garden. The flowers are fragrant. Now, when the wind blows through the flowers, the wind takes the fragrance from the flowers and then moves on for a certain length of time. So you and I, we feel, oh, there is a beautiful garden with very nice fragrance. Like the wind which takes the flowers, the prarabdha wind takes the body and the sukshma shariram out of this body and it brings it into the body. Prarabdha karma, the karma which is there in the causal body, in the punya papam, that is the account of the jiva. That will bring the sanchita, those people who have done law of karma with me in Tattvabodha will remember this very well. So ultimately, what does the Lord wants to say? In the previous mantra, the Lord said, Mamai Vamshe Jiva Loke, I am a part in all the bodies, I am the reflected consciousness. Lord is explaining that portion extensively, extends that discussion in the 8th mantra. In the 6th mantra, the Lord said, my real nature is natad bhasayate suryaha na shashanko na pavakaha. That is my intrinsic nature. That is my real home. It is the real home for the Lord. It is the real home for the jiva. In the 7th mantra, the Lord said that when you come down from that paramarthika satyam, absolute reality, into this vyavaharika world of waking state, what happens is, mamai vamsho, I am reflected in the mind. And now he is extending that principle and telling us how does the body get this birth and death, birth and death. He extends that principle. He says, the Lord takes up the bodies like the wind takes up the fragrance. When the karma for living in a particular body ends, the jiva takes the senses, the mind, and goes to another body, assisted with the devatas. Very important point. I have not put it here, but you should remember always that the devatas have a very big role in this cosmos. Devata means what? It is the presiding deity in all the sense organs of knowledge and organs of action, including the mind. The deities, which are the faculties, the powers, they will wind up. They will, this is explained, this particular, what I'm trying to tell you now is explained again in the 18th chapter. So the deities will, they have the power to enter a body and they have the power to leave the body. And the deities are controlled by the Lord, by Ishvara. So it is the deities which are taking away the sense organs from this body and the mind from this body and the Karana Shariram to another body. So there is a packing up and unpacking, packing up and unpacking. Unpacking is birth, packing up is death. Nothing to fear, exactly like what happens when we wake up. When we wake up, what happens? We just wake up to this world. We enter the mind, enter the sense organs, and we see the world. Unpack means what? Again, we go to sleep. Is there any pain in that? No, it is the nature of the world. It is the nature of the whole cosmos. It is the nature of the 5 elements. So there is absolutely nothing to worry, nothing to, when we understand the real truth of this body, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads, then the clarity of knowledge you get is simply amazing. And it purifies the mind. You see, the beauty is all these mantras, when we dwell on it, it purifies the mind, means my identification with the mind reduces. This happens. This is explained again in the 18th chapter. How does it happen is explained. The I am remains in this body. I want objects and things, that gets dropped. So the wind takes the fragrance from the flower. The fragrance leaves the flower. Similarly, the reflected consciousness takes the senses, the indriyas, the faculties, and the mind, the 5 sense organs, the 5 organs of action, the faculties, the pancha pranas, 5, 5, 5, 15, manas, buddhi, 17. This is what is called as the subtle body. 17 subtle faculties. It is the power which is there in the body. Tattvabodha, I'm just revising the Tattvabodha. So these 17 faculties, they leave the gross body. Whenever the karma is over, karma means actions. Throughout our life, you will see that this physical body is always up to some action. Good action, bad action, neutral actions. It just keeps on doing some action. Whenever there's an action, there is a result also. So that is how the Lord explains birth and death in this beautiful verse. Why the Lord of the body mind takes the subtle body? Because it is required for the next body. We all of us, very clearly the Shastras tell us that we bring our old mind again into the next body. That is why some people are born artists. Right at a young age, they start drawing. Some people start singing. Some people can chant the Bhagavad Gita at the age of 5. It is the same mind which has got the vasanas of the Bhagavad Gita, the vasanas of the previous impressions. Each one of us brings together the same faculties in the next body. So this is how this mantra is very important. It is it's got a lot of depth in it, and there are always many questions connected with this body, with this particular verse. And this verse is often quoted also to explain what happens during death. So nothing to fear about death. It's a fearless phenomena which happens in this universe. It is just an automatic phenomena like waking up and sleep. Waking up and sleep. You wake up to this body, you wake up to another body. That's all. Shotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam ghranam eva cha adhishthaya manaschayam vishayanupasevate. So what happens when the fragrance has left? It has gone, it resides, and again the reflected consciousness starts working in the next body. This reflected consciousness is the power of God. It is the power of the ultimate Purusha. That is the power of the substratum. Original consciousness never comes into play in the transactional field. It is called as avyavaharyam. The reflected consciousness comes into play in the day-to-day transactions. So the reflected consciousness takes the subtle body and places them in the new body. How does this happen? Exactly like when you get transferred. When you get transferred from one city to another city, you pack from one city, unpack in another city. You remove your suitcase with all the things you have brought in, again, put them back in the shelves in a new house. So similarly, when we leave this body, the faculties, the 5 faculties of seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, tasting, all these powers are which are taken out from the body, they are put back into a new baby. After about a year, the baby starts speaking. That is where the karma indriyas open up. When a baby is born, I'm sure all of you have experienced this, all the jnana indriyams do not work immediately. They take their time. The baby doesn't understand space, time, all that it doesn't understand. It just sees some images. So for the first 1-2 months, it's just trying to, the indriyams are slowly coming back into power. And slowly the jnana indriyams comes, then the baby can hear properly, the baby can see, understand, smile, hear, all that happens. So it's a slow process. It's a slow process by which this natural evolution takes place. And when the baby has grown, it starts doing karma, it starts enjoying certain sukham, dukkham from the same world, from this new world, wherever it finds. You're born in a great family, you're born with the siblings, all that is the law of karma. But what really happens is the process of sukham and dukkham starts again. Through the 5 sense organs, the body starts enjoying the happiness of living, and of course, coupled with the sorrow. The next mantra, Utkramantam stitam vapi Gunjanam va gunanvitam Vimudhananupashyanti Pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. Here, the Lord is trying to teach what happens to a jnani and what happens to a ajnani. In the 14th chapter of the Gita, the previous chapter, we learnt about gunas. The gunas, the 3 gunas. And there in that chapter, we learned there is a gunatita atma. A gunatita atma is a person, a jnani, who has understood that there is a prakriti, there is a nature which is in this body, which acts in this body. And I am not that prakriti, I am the seer, I am the experiencer. I am distinctly different than the 5 elements. I am the experiencer consciousness, experiencer awareness principle. So those people who are known to discriminate the gunas from the Atma, they are the ones who possess this knowledge. And when you are a wise person, you will not get deluded by the mind. Mainly it is the mind which deludes the jiva. So in this verse, it clearly says that the one who is deluded, because he is a ajnani, he will get attached to the body. See, the process of attachment and detachment now is being explained very clearly here. The one who understands that I am the pure consciousness awareness, he is wise. He has got the eye of knowledge. And therefore, what happens to him? Even if he takes another body, he knows right from the day one, he is a Sakshi, Turiya. The body has come, okay, body will go. Due to some prarabdha karma, either his own prarabdha karma or somebody else's prarabdha karma. So what happens is he has the eye of knowledge. The story of the jiva is the story of the reflected consciousness. The reflected consciousness together with the mind has got 2 states. The one status is it is free. It is identified with the Atma, which is ever free. Then the second state of that mind is the one which is identified with the body, with the gross body as the self, with the mind as the self, with the 3 states as the self, with the 5 koshas, the dresses which it wears as the self. That is called as bandha karanam. It is the status where one is bound. So in this body itself, you can remain as a bound person who is called as a vimudhaha. Vimudha means what? Swami Chinmayananda calls a vimudha, viseshena mudaha. He calls him who has got a PhD in delusion. Utterly deluded. He thinks there is nothing else except, like the Charvakas, like who thinks that the body is everything. When the body goes, there's nothing else left, that's it. He's supposed to be a deluded person. And who is a wise person? A wise person who is a person who has studied the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Brahma Sutra, Charasagara. He has understood in depth. Each of these texts takes you deeper and deeper and deeper in understanding your own self. So he has a different vision. A wise person has a different vision. I will continue this verse because it's got a little bit more depth in it. I will continue this verse next week. We'll start from this verse, number 10, and we'll see a little bit more in detail when we meet next Saturday. If you have any questions or what we have discussed today, you can ask them at the end of the class, at the end of the session now. I'll close with the closing prayers. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamathaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, Shama, I'm just going to unmute everybody so that you can ask your questions. Shama, yeah, go ahead.
So two separate questions, please, if I may ask. The first one is related to the Turiya state, okay? Yeah. And that is, so it is akin to, so it's the deep sleep, not the Sushupti state, it's the deep sleep.
No. Turiya is not the deep sleep.
No?
No. Deep sleep state is called as Sushupti. Turiya is a state which is beyond the Sushupti.
This is what I'm asking. So, because I think you did refer to Turiya as the deep sleep, no?
No, it is, you see, what I'm saying is, it is a state which is not the deep sleep state. Deep sleep state is called as the Sushupti state.
Correct.
Okay. Now, there are three states. Waking state is the Jagrat.
Mm.
From waking state, we all go to sleep first.
Yeah.
We lose the waking state.
Mm-hmm.
Then from the sleep state, then we go to dream state.
Dream state, correct. Yeah.
And sometimes from the dream state, we come up to the waking state.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think more or less most of us will probably agree to this.
Yeah. Also in the medical physiology wise, it's really the four states are described in
Yes.
this thing, which is, I'm talking about the sleep cycle, not.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, the sleep cycle where it's NREM 1, NREM 2, and then you have an NREM 3, and then you have a fourth state, which is the rapid eye ball movement state. And during that, you have the dream state. So okay. In other words, what you are saying, the Sushupti, and the Sushupti, Sushupti, and then that goes to the Swapna state. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So which is the kind of sleep cycle which we know.
That's correct. We go through these three states. All of us go through these three states, including animals and birds. Everybody goes through these three states.
So,
it is called as prakriti. It is called as nature.
So now my question is about the Turiyam state.
Okay, now Turiyam is something which is different than the three states. It is not the waker, it is not the sleeper, it is not the dreamer.
So when is it?
Okay, now if you want to ask this question about Turiyam, it is explained in the Mandukya Upanishad as the invariable state.
Throughout
it is there
all of them.
Through all of them.
Through all of them.
Through all these states, the awareness principle, you see, this is the most difficult aspect of human intellect. The human intellect cannot understand this. What is this Turiyam?
Yeah.
The reason is because the intellect falls.
Yeah.
You know, when you try to understand Turiyam, the intellect falls.
Yeah.
It goes to a numb state.
But what I want to know is,
it is that state which is there, and that is what Bhagavad Gita is trying to reveal, that is your real nature. It is not the sleep state. Sleep state is a ignorant state of the being.
Okay.
Turiyam state is the knowledgeable state of a being.
Okay, so which can happen in any state, you know.
It can happen. It can happen in when it happens in the waking state, you are called as a jnani.
Okay, now, so which, you know, in the yoga system, not in the jnana system of meditation, when the yoga state system of meditation, I would like to think that Turiyam is equivalent to the samadhi. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is what Shankara says, you are making a mistake there.
What? It's not samadhi? No.
It is not samadhi.
Samadhi is dead one.
You see, what Shankaracharya says, that is where in the Brahma Sutra, now what we are discussing comes in the Brahma Sutra. When you study the Brahma Sutra, which we normally study after the Upanishads, in the second chapter of the Brahma Sutra, Shankaracharya, he goes through in depth this yoga method of understanding samadhi as the final Turiyam. He says that is a wrong thing. Why? Why does he say that samadhi is not Turiyam? The reason is, in samadhi, there is the awareness of the I, and there is an awareness of nothingness. Two are there, Dvaitam. Because yoga says that nothingness and awareness, that is what is samadhi. When your dhi means your intellect has got no thoughts.
Yeah, correct.
When the intellect has no thoughts, it means it has no objects of the outside world.
The nirvikalpa samadhi.
Yeah, nirvikalpa samadhi. But in that samadhi state, you will come back to the savikalpa samadhi state because of time, because of karma.
Yeah.
Therefore, he says that is not the ultimate truth. There is a higher truth, which is called as Turiyam, which is called as the nirguna avastha, which is called, it is higher. You see, this discussion of what the yoga thinks as the ultimate truth, what Advaitam thinks as the ultimate truth, they are two philosophies.
They are not the same.
They are not the same. They are not the same.
Okay.
What Shankaracharya says is, this samadhi state is as good as the sleep state.
Okay, get it. Yeah, or more refined.
But it is not the awareness principle. as long as you are saying, I am in Samadhi state, I had a Samadhi state, he says that is not your true state. It is the state in which you are still in Dvaita.
Okay, so it
He
just
says, it's a very subtle difference, you know. These are all scholars. Yoga philosophy is, you know, they're all scholars. They're all very bright people who have given, they're very great people. Madhavacharya, Yoga, you know, Yogacharya, all these are very great philosophers. Only in this, in the highest point, Shankaracharya takes the help of the Shruti. He takes the help of the scriptures and says the scriptures are saying it is Advaitam.
Yeah.
Whereas in Samadhi, there is Dvaitam. You are the experiencer. You are experiencing you are experiencing a thoughtless state of the mind.
Yeah.
That means you are seeing something. As long as you are seeing the thoughtless state, you are still in Dvaita.
So just for hypothetically can I assume that at a certain very, very highly advanced state, which I'm not going to have it in this life, I'm very sure of it, so that when you are a jnani in the Advaitam system of philosophy, you can be in your Turiyam or Jnani state in all the in all the wakes.
Yes, perfectly fine. A jnani is in the Turiyam state all the time, whether it is in waking, dream, or sleep.
So it's really not the fourth state.
It is not the fourth state. It is
the natural state. It
is a natural state of our existence.
The Atman state.
It is called the fourth state for a junior student who is rising and from the three states.
Yeah, it's the same immanent state, Atman state in all the,
Yeah, you see, that is why once we understand the seventh mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad clearly, that is where you can be called as a jnani. The moment you say, I am a jnani, you should understand the seventh mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad without any doubts.
And just one more question, and that's related to the 10th verse, you know, this question of packing and unpacking in birth and death, which was very nicely explained. Although I feel, I don't know why we worry about our deaths, you know, it's no question, you know, it's the living which is more important in terms of whether am I living right, you know, that should be more important a thing. So I have no idea as to why do we think about death. According to the prarabdha karma, as per our prarabdha karma, the sukshma and the karana sharira, they will merge into and go into the jiva. Would it happen straight at the time of conception?
You mean at what time that the jiva enters the body?
Yeah.
Yes, according to the Upanishads, it says it happens at the state of conception.
Okay, so for example, then, sorry for bringing in such a stupid thing, because if somebody has a heart transplant, okay, so that organ, that's just a simple organ, it goes into so would we assume that for that heart which is functioning, it is now the recipient's Atman which will actually be residing and getting it to function through the pancha pranas? Is that what we're operating? Because that person is dead and gone.
Yes, it is the new resident who has come in.
Okay, so it no longer belong to that previous person. No,
it no longer belongs to the previous person. If it's a transplant, see what you should not confuse. There are three different levels. There is a physical level of the 5 elements.
Which is what I'm talking about.
Which is what you are talking of the heart transplant.
Yeah.
There is a subtle level of the mind.
Yeah.
Which is a higher order.
Yeah.
And then there is a still higher order, which is Atman.
Correct.
At the Atman level, there is no transplants. It is just the
It is there is none. I mean, it's only one Atman.
Yes,
isn't
there
it?
is only
one
me.
Atman.
Yes, I am the only one. That is why a jnani very happily he will enjoy a full meal, and he says while eating a good meal itself, he'll say that all this meal is interesting, no doubt, but then they are all mithya.
Yeah, undivided.
Yeah, but I am not. He will enjoy the meal thoroughly, and because he knows that there is a higher state. See, the knowledge makes the knowledge makes the life very, very different.
Yeah.
For a jnani and a ajnani.
But you would accept that whether I'm going through Bhakti Marga or Jnana Marga or the yoga system, whatever, or the karma, at the final realm, it is the same state. Would you?
Yes, it is the same state. Yes.
Okay.
All the philosophers, when they have experienced or when they have realized their self, it is the same self.
Okay. Okay.
When they start explaining that, then the problem starts. When you start explaining your experiences at their own experiential level, they all have had the same experience of Atman.
Yeah, and like Shankaracharya, he did write such great devotional hymns, didn't he? He was a jnani, and he wrote such devotional hymns. So where did that come from, isn't it? It has to be from the same
Turiyam.
Yeah.
It is a one Turiyam which is appearing as this
as
at the lower level.
Separate.
Yes, he can talk about that power of Devi. Lalita Sahasranamam, he talks about that power. That power belongs to Turiyam only, ultimately.
Wonderful it is. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I will leave myself now.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else has any other question?
Namaste, sir. I am Malti.
Yeah, Malti, yeah.
So, according to my understanding about Turiyam, Shama ma'am was telling no. So, in waking state, ignorance is there of our true nature. We don't know about our true nature. Ignorance. Because of that ignorance, we make so many errors. Like this waking world is real, and these are errors. With that, awareness is there in the waking state. In the dreaming state also, ignorance is there, and we commit the error, and awareness is witnessing all those. And in deep sleep, ignorance is there, but that error is not there. Only ignorance and awareness is there. So Turiyam is that state, only awareness. We get rid of the ignorance, we get rid of the errors, only awareness is there. That state is Turiyam. This is my understanding.
You're perfect. Yeah, you're right. You're right. If you study the Mandukya Upanishad, there they use two terms. One is called as non-apprehension, another is called misapprehension. Non-apprehension, these are just technical terms used in Mandukya Upanishad in the Karikas. So Gaudapada Acharya, he uses, your understanding is perfectly correct. There is wheeling and there is projection. These are the two powers in the mind. Okay, there is our mind. All minds have got two powers intrinsically. One is called as the wheeling, the covering. The wheeling power is what happens in the sleep state. In the sleep state, that tamas, the tamas covers our real nature of Turiyam. Turiyam is not, the sleep state is nothing else but ignorance. That's all. What we call sleep state is nothing but ignorance, pure ignorance. Ignorance. Yes. So in the ignorance, in that state, in that ignorant state, there is no projections. Okay. So the mind has got that covering of Atma, and there are no projections. The projections come only in the dream state and in the waking state. In the dream state, the projection is without the sense organs of the waking state. In the waking state, the sense organs are all functioning, plus the projection.
So I am always a Turiyam. Being a Turiyam, I'm experiencing the waking world.
Exactly.
Being a Turiyam, I'm experiencing the dream world.
Yes.
This should be our vision.
Absolutely, yes. That is why in meditation, the best form of meditation is you close your eyes with your power, you try to not operate the sense organs. Okay? So first, all your eyes are closed, your ears are not listening, you're focused on only the mind. The mind is throwing thoughts.
Yes,
That
yes.
means what? Your sense organs you're not aware of. You're aware of only your mind. Now you say that this mind is the power in this body which is projecting these thoughts.
Yes, yes. Mind is also dissolution.
It is, mind is nothing else but the same Shakti of Maya.
Yes,
It
yes.
is the Maya Shakti, you know, it is there in all our bodies. Every body has this Shakti. The moment you close your eyes, if you are aware of your thoughts, there are two things. One, which is the thought, and the second is the awarer of the thought. The thought belongs, it has got objects in it. The thought has got two components. One is the objects or the impressions of the world which you have experienced. Suppose you are thinking about your mother, you're thinking about your daughter, about your son. That is the object in your thought. The thought can be of having a good meal, of having gone to some nice spot. This could be the different objects. But you should, at that time, you should say that this, if I remove this object, that same thought is nothing else but consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Same thought. It is projecting a world of objects because this thought does not know its nature. Through the Bhagavad Gita, I come to know that this subtle mind is nothing but it is the power of that Turiyam. The moment that object is removed from the mind, it can happen through the samadhi of the Yoga Shastra. You can remove the objects through the samadhi of the Yoga Shastra. It's possible to control your mind and trying to say, okay, now I'm not going to think of any object. Slowly you try to start saying, this is what we do in the Panchakosha meditation. We drop all the objects belonging to the external world, the body, then we say the pranas, then we say drop the identification with the manaha, then we say we drop the identification with the karta and bhokta, the intellect. So what happens is, ultimately you come to a state which is either the thoughtless state, which is, that thoughtless state is nothing else but the same state which you experience as Anandamaya Kosha.
Oh.
It is a Anandamaya Kosha, what you are experiencing in sleep. So Shankaracharya says, don't try to go into such depths of, it is good to quieten the mind. It is good to quieten the mind for what? For getting the knowledge of Atma. Not to remain in that state and say that this is the final state. So here in this state, you try to understand, I am that consciousness which is always aware. Now, if you have come up to this point, then you should be able to imagine in your own mind the waking state is something which comes with the world. The dream state is another subtle projection of the mind. Whatever is the dream, we don't care. You may dream of something, I may dream of something, whatever is the dream, that is another state. But in both this, I don't know myself. Ignorance, like you said, that ignorance is there in the waking, ignorance is there in the dream.
Yes. Ignorance is there in deep sleep also.
Also in deep sleep.
Yes.
But what makes the difference of the Turiyam is the Bhagavad Gita in these verses, Natad Bhasayate Suryaha. In that 6th verse, which we did today in the Gita, it says in that Nirguna Avastha, it is not the sleep state. In that Turiya Avastha, there is no light of the sun. There is no light of the moon. He is not talking of the sleep state here. So Shama, here is where your answer lies. The 6th mantra is talking about the Nirguna Turiyam state. It is not talking of the inert state of the deep sleep.
The doubt was raised because I thought, after the good deep sleep state, we get up in the morning very restored and very refreshed. But now I believe that must not be because we have somehow reached that Turiyam, we have experienced a Turiyam state or something like that. It is purely a biological.
You see, you are aware of the Turiyam state and that you keep it now.
Right.
And this comes only through the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, which says that there is something which is beyond the deep sleep state, and that is what is called as Atman.
So hopefully in that deep sleep state, I can allow that thought to sink in, because then,
See, this is where many people make a mistake. It's not you, thousands, even I made a mistake of thinking that the deep sleep state itself is Turiyam state. Only when I went through the Mandukya Upanishad, maybe the 10th time, then it sinks in and says, no, they are not talking of the deep sleep state, because in the deep sleep state, it is an ignorant, inert state. The deep sleep state is an inert state, exactly like the state of a table and a chair.
Because we can't see and can't experience the Turiyam.
Yes.
That is the...
You can't experience Turiyam in that deep sleep state. But what Shankaracharya says is, in your waking state, you realize, drop identification through your mind power, drop the identification and be the pure being. And you can experience it in the waking.
And maybe consciously, whatever activities we are doing, for instance, if I'm listening, I can easily separate that I'm listening to you, I'm a listener and I'm a talker, but at the same time, there is something else, the Chaitanya Shakshi, which is actually watching this whole process.
Yes.
And that, so it is encouraging.
Ever there, and it will see the absence of Shama talking in the class.
Yeah.
It will see the absence in the sleep state.
Yeah.
Shama is not talking, Shama is not experiencing the world in the sleep state. But the Sakshi will remain there at that time, experiencing the unmanifest condition.
So it's really just a screen on which all this is happening.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Yes, Malati, are you clear now? Ignorance is there, but there is no projection. Ishvara has got no ignorance, but he has got the projecting ability.
Yes.
You see, that is why he is called as Ishvara. I have got ignorance and projections. I keep on projecting in the waking state. Oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This might not happen. All this is all Maya. It's all only thoughts. But we can't help it. We have to live our life through that. The Jnani is one who stops projecting. Let me watch what will happen.
And I will risk being thrown out of the class by saying, and Vedanta in the initial stages before one can understand, I think it produces enough of a Shabda Maya Jal.
Yes.
It's such a Shabdas, so many words. But that in itself is a Maya Jal. And I keep thinking, my God, from one Maya Jal, you go into another one. No, this is a joke.
What you are saying, Shama, it was discussed by Shankaracharya.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, exactly what you're saying. Because in the Shankara Bhashyam of Adhyasa, there is an opponent who comes and asks exactly what you're asking.
Oh
And
dear.
Shankaracharya tells him, I agree with what you say. He tells the opponent, he says, I accept what you say, that entire spiritual study is a Shabda Maya.
One day I was angry with myself, very angry with myself. What are you
don't
doing?
be angry. What he says is that this Shabda Maya has a power. This is called as Vidya Maya. This Shabda Maya is called as Vidya Maya. This Vidya Maya has the power to destroy the Avidya Maya.
Thank you.
That is the answer of Shankaracharya.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay.
Repeated chanting of any mantras will help to develop the brain cells and like that.
Any mantras for?
Repeated chanting of any mantras,
which will help.
Help to develop the nerve cells and all these. Nowadays, these doctors are also telling like that. No, so Shabda Maya is helping to develop the nerve cells.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's another different topic by itself.
Yes,
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else has any other question?
Because Jerry, this is Lakshmi.
Go ahead, Bud.
Yeah. So I think, but the whole discussion seems to veering around that this is kind of a experience, right? But what the Shastra is saying, it is not an experience. The whole talk about Atma is not about experience at all, right?
Okay. I will answer your question in two ways. It is, okay, I agree to you saying, yes, experience is possible only when you have the mind. The moment mind comes in, experience starts. But the Shastra also says you realize yourself as Brahman, as pure Atman. The Shastra itself says, realize. So, when the Shastra says you realize yourself as Aham Brahmasmi, as I am the Turiya Atma, what it means is, in this waking state itself, through the knowledge, you try to know yourself as this pure Atman. It is possible to remain as a pure being without an experience of the world of objects or beings. That is what is called as self-realization. You see, you're not talking about experience of the world. You're talking about a pure presence, a pure being, which is devoid of all the objects. Without objects will come only when the mind is active. Mind, you're saying, is mithya. So just you're trying to drop the mind, whatever the mind is thinking, doing, whatever it is, any thought process is only a ripple of consciousness. The wave mind understands the content of the mind as consciousness, then it becomes a presence or a pure being. Even though the Shastra says that you cannot experience Atma with the mind, what it means there is you cannot experience Atma like an object of the mind. But at the same time, Shastra says, realize you are Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Atma, I am Turiya Atma Asmi. When you say this in your own mind, after dropping all the thoughts, dropping all the objects of the mind, that which is whatever it is, I cannot put a, because that pure being cannot be described. But the one who realizes it, he will have that fragrance of that bliss. The fragrance of Atma comes to the mind of a jnani only when he has dropped the mind. That is what is the pure being. this takes, this is, I'm talking at the very high level of understanding the Atma.
It's fascinating, isn't it, that although the Atman has no kind of qualification to it,
Yes, you
but
see,
if you higher you go into realizing it,
yes,
this phenomenal transformation it takes for the jiva in terms of the Jivanmukta, or the, you know, there's so many descriptions about it that, you know, it's just, you know, the Satchitananda status, what it can lead you to transform in your life. You know, it's
yeah.
pure love, pure, you know, yeah, Ananda. It's in your manifest state. Yeah. So that's what is so wonderful. Yeah.
Coming back to your
For those people who are doing actual physical yoga,
Mhm.
you know, you suppose you're doing some asanas and pranayamas. If you are doing it, you will easily understand the nature of the mind. Because when you do yoga, what happens is your mind, you're closed your eyes and you're doing all the yoga asanas and or pranayama, whatever it is. Your mind is active. Your mind is throwing thoughts. At that time, it's very easy to understand I am the seer of the thoughts. Remember this knowledge. I am the seer of the thoughts. I am not the thoughts. I am the seer of the thoughts. I am the sakshi of the thoughts. I am not the thoughts. Apply this principle in day-to-day living. Whenever you are in a crisis situation, remember, I am not the thoughts. I am the seer of the thoughts. I am the sakshi. That is called as Jivanmukti. The Bhagavad Gita should be lived. It's a living science. It should not be just in the books and the CDs and the roads and all that. It should become a living science. And that is where when you apply the knowledge of Atma in day-to-day world, into day-to-day living, then it becomes beneficial to us. That is where I'm saying that the knowledge of the presence of Atma, let it sink into you. Let that be a being. Realize that pure being in your meditations. Realize it. Realizing is through the scriptures only, through the knowledge only you're realizing it. It is not through the mind. The mind is already dropped. That knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is now acting as a support for you to know your nature as Turiya. Because in the sleep state, you cannot realize yourself because you're already sleeping. There is no control in sleep. In the dream state, you have no control. You are dreaming. You know, the body is dreaming, the mind is projecting, you have no control. Where do you have the control? Only in the waking. It's only in the waking your mind can go across these barriers and realize that I am that pure Atma. And the most fundamental obstacle for all of us to realize this Atma is the emotions. You must realize this. The emotions in us keep rising and falling, keep rising and falling. When we are living life, our emotions are rising and falling. Emotions are rising and falling. Therefore, there is a very beautiful question asked by one of the students in one of the higher texts called Vichara Sagara. There, the student is asking his guru, emotions belong to Atma or Anatma? Tell me.
Anatma. Certainly Anatma.
This is exactly the mistake all of us make.
Oh!
Anatma, what is the definition of Anatma?
Which is
Inert.
not, yeah, unqualified.
Inert. Can inert desk have emotion?
It's from the mind, isn't it? Anything which belongs to the mind is
Yes.
is an Atma. So
But
in
mind,
that
Yeah, mind. When you say mind, it is a mixture of Atma and Anatma. It is not Anatma.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
It is.
Mind is a mixture of Atma and Anatma.
And Anatma.
That is why it goes into the Sukshma
Yes,
Sharira and goes to the
yes,
next one.
yes.
Oh, I now get it. So that's how the samskaras from one
Yes, yes,
birth
yes.
is carried on.
So in that, see, this is what happens in higher
That's
texts.
beautiful. That's
You know,
beautiful.
it goes very, very deep. You see, that's why I said the psychology of the psychology topic. If you really study the Vichara Sagara, you'll find that all the psychology which you'll have learned through this through science is completely different than what the Vedas talk about.
When are you teaching Vichar Sagara?
Oh, I'm going to, I want to do it, but I want some help, and I want somebody to study with me first and then prepare the notes and then put it into practice. It's Vichara Sagara is 7 chapters with about 3,500 pages of notes. Now, I'm just thinking, if I have to develop a methodology, and it's all in Sanskrit, so if I get some people to learn and then prepare notes and then put it into a format, then it's possible. But at this point of time, it's very difficult for me to say when I can take it. But it has got all the answers of the psychology which you learn in the science,
To the modern psychology.
Yeah. So here, just to give you an answer, I want to leave that question for you to think about. Emotions cannot belong to Atma because Atma is nirgunaha.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, it has no gunas. Emotions cannot belong to Anatma because Anatma is Jadam. But still we all experience emotions. Neither it can belong to Atma, which is pure consciousness, and it is nirgunam. It is, whereas emotions are with gunas, It is with savikara, which is with vikaras.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this can only belong to the Anatma world. But Anatma is Jadam. It is not, emotions means it has got some consciousness aspect in it. Okay, but here your answer, of course, in the higher text, the answer is that even though it doesn't belong to Atma, the answer of the Shankaracharya, of that particular guru there, is that emotions are superimposed as though in Atma. It is not really in Atma, but it is superimposed. It is an adhyasa on Atma. Therefore, we experience them as the nearest to us.
Yeah, makes sense.
It is this emotion we have to drop it as a superimposition, as an adhyasa on me, the consciousness. It is as though appearing in me, but it is not appearing in me. I am, from the Shastra, I come to know I am the Nirguna Atma. And therefore, I learn to drop my emotions. So what I wanted to say was the emotions are the one which is the biggest obstacle for all of us.
Absolutely.
And I must learn to drop these emotions. And once I learn to drop these emotions through the knowledge, then it is easy for me to accept pure consciousness. Turiyam is my nature.
True, very true. Very true.
I think we have got quite a lot of discussions. Anybody else?
That's a great discovery.
Okay, so we'll catch up next week and we'll continue this beautiful study of the 15th chapter. Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Hari Om, sir.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Sir, thank you so much. It was very, very, very nice today.
Oh,
Amazing.
very good. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Why
Siddhant.
don't people show up? I don't like it. Why don't people show up?
Yeah, yeah. Each
Shamaji,
one.
you see me?
Yes, you look absolutely.
Namaste. I am Malti.
At least consciousness, Atma to dikhta hai na? I mean, if you understand Hindi, a lot
Yeah.
of people whom I don't see, I don't know whether they exist or they don't exist.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you and good night.
Sir, please start Vichar Sagara also. I'm interested. Vichar Sagara.
Yes. Yeah, there's almost everybody is interested in Vichara Sagara, but I need some help in that. Who can study first? Then,
Sir, I will try if I can help you.
okay. What is your background, Siddhant?
Sir, I'm in yoga since yoga and philosophy since last 15 years.
Okay, and where do you live?
Delhi, capital of India.
Oh, okay. You live in Delhi, and then have you done the Upanishads before?
Yes, sir. No, 3 or 4 Upanishads, not all the Upanishads. So I'm going through all your videos which you put on the Vedanta on your website.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So
Okay,
जितना भी आपका है वो सारा मैं study कर रहा हूँ अभी.
Okay, very good. Anyway, I'll be in touch with you when I'm ready with that.
Sure, Shari. If I can help anything, please tell me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Siddhant. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night.